Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Vikings vent line. It's the guy on the left that everyone always says, what does he do here? Well, I'm the executive producer. Hello, Declan Goff of Purple Daily and Mackie and Judd on Score North. I'm also your host on the off-season edition of Vikings Vent Line, powered by our friends at Surly Brewing. Never settle. Get surly. Get furious. Get an extra Citra. Get a Surly Hell. There's plenty of options for you at Surly Brewing, but the Minnesota's favorite IPA, the Surly Furious, and there'll be plenty of furiousness to discuss on Vikings Vent Line today and also maybe in future episodes. We're only a couple weeks from the NFL kickoff season in Cincinnati, so there'll be plenty of things to be furious about. Thanks to our friends at Surly Brewing Company for sponsoring Purple Daily here on Score North. It is Vikings Vent Line. I have Logan, I have Jason, who are in queue here. We're ready to talk some Vikings and talk some off-season stuff as we wrap up training camp and the season approaches. By the way, Purple Daily and Vikings Vent Line is powered by the Minnesota Vikings State Lottery. It's the Vikings Scratch Games. If you're a big fan and ready for some big fun, then get pumped and say, I'm in to Vikings Scratch Games from the Minnesota State Lottery. Must be 18 older to play. They have $5 games, which went up to $100,000, and also some holographic designs, $2 skull games with $15,000 rewards. It's the Minnesota State Lottery. I'm in Vikings Scratch Games. Must be 18 years or older to play. If you'd like to get in on a future episode of Vikings Vent Line, I think I'll probably do one more, because obviously we're 2 weeks away from the season, so we will probably do one over Labor Day weekend. If you want to get in last minute, shoot me an email, vikingsventline@gmail.com, vikingsventline@gmail.com. It is scrolling across the bottom of your screen there. And then we'll obviously have the regular season edition of Ventline, which will launch the moment after the Vikings' first game in Cincinnati ends, with hopefully a Vikings win or maybe a crushing Vikings loss. Just kidding. We'll see what happens, but we'll gladly welcome you back on the screen. Mackie, Judd, and myself will be back at full strength with Surly's in hand, ready to rock and talk some Vikings Ventline. All right, enough of clerical work. Let's get our guy Logan and Jason here in on the screen. Logan, Jason, thank you for joining Vikings Ventline, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And Logan, I'll start with you here quick. You said you discovered us from a fantasy football podcast. So are you the kind of guy, too, that I haven't played fantasy in like 5 or 6 years, but are you the kind of guy that also tries to draft Vikings guys, at least like when you can, or do you just try to avoid it and go with your best player available?
Of course, I'm in a fantasy league with other Vikings fans, so it's obviously very competitive. Who's going to get Dalvin? Who's going to get Justin? You kind of got to take the scraps. Probably Irv Smith will be on my team this year. Some guy I can scoop up late.
I like it. And Jason, you said you've been discovering us over the last year. I see you're rocking your Surly Brewing Company shirt there. We love that. And what are you drinking again? You got an Oktoberfest,
yes,
is that it?
Yeah, Surly Oktoberfest here out in Michigan. So it is out here, starting to go out through the country.
Nice. So yeah, Jason's out in Michigan. Logan, you said you're in St. Paul, correct?
Yep.
All right, and I'm here at the Hubbard Broadcasting Studios for edition of Vikings Vent Line. Guys, let's start with this first question here. We've been talking a lot about it on Purple Daily the last few days, with Jake Browning looking like he is the ifdo de facto backup. Kellen Mond is a possible project. We all know Kirk Cousins is the starting quarterback. There's opinions on Kirk Cousins, but we do know he's our starting quarterback. That's the best case scenario if he's on the field every day. But in the crazy event he does get injured, or if he can't play in a game, the Vikings would have to turn to a backup. And right now, that would be Jake Browning. So, Logan, I want to start with you. Who are you looking at, and what do you think the Vikings should do with their backup quarterback position behind Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I was going into the season, I was really hoping Kellen Mond would be the guy. It's kind of like if you order something new at a restaurant, it's not quite what you were expecting. It's not good. It's not bad. I thought he could be Dak Prescott. Now my sights are more Jacoby Brissett, which is not bad, but definitely not what we were hoping. So I guess I'm hoping for Blake Bortles, to be honest, which isn't the greatest thing in the world, but he's played some good games. He's played NFL defenses. He's not been an absolute train wreck. And I think that's what we need as a backup. And I think that's what Kirk values as well, is having someone who's seen the game and seen NFL defenses.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Browning had a very nice showing early parts in the training camp and preseason when the quarterback room got decimated by COVID. But in general, he still hasn't played an NFL game his entire life. The preseason games haven't been too kind to him as well. And, look, Blake Bortles, I know he might be a laughingstock in the butt of a lot of jokes, but he's a veteran quarterback. He's made some starts. If it had to be an absolute pinch, I feel better with Blake Bortles as the backup over Jake Browning as well. And I feel you on Kellen Mond. I mean, I think everyone after draft day thought, oh, perfect, here it is, ideal backup situation. Then scouting reports came out, and then training camp and mini camp, it was very obvious that, this is actually going to take some time. To your point, it's not going to be a Dak Prescott situation where he can just step in and be the guy right away. It's going to take some time there. Jason, what do you think in terms of the backup quarterback plan for the Vikings, whether it's this season or next year? What do you want to see the Vikings do, and who should back up Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, it's tough because the reports from Kellen Mond, he's just raw, inexperienced. The same with Jake Browning. So I agree with Logan. I think they should bring in a veteran, and I'm not a fan of Bortles by any means, but at the same time, he's got experience and probably would make Zimmer feel better if with someone with some, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of experience behind Kirk, just to try to keep the season going in case there's any kind of issue. And then for Kellen Mond, part of me is hoping that he just gets lots of reps throughout the year for development, because he is raw, and that's the report from Phil when he's out there at training camp. He just needs lots and lots of reps. So my hope is, at least during the season, he can learn through the season being behind Kirk or being behind Jake.
Yeah, I think with Kellen Mond, you the best case scenario is he sits this year, he takes his time, he takes another step forward in the offseason and possibly could be the guy week 1 of 2022. How the Vikings can figure that out, we don't know yet. Look, I don't think it wasn't a bad idea to take a flyer on him in the third round. You may as well try to take something there in the third round and in any middle rounds you can to find a backup quarterback plan. I was counting for Drew Lock of the Denver Broncos. I don't think that's a bad backup option either. He lost the job to Teddy. And Denver, they could possibly still use Drew Lock if Teddy either gets hurt or is ineffective. So I can see them also not even wanting to part with him. But finding someone that just has NFL experience. I mean, I brought this up on Friday's edition of Purple Daily, but when Sam Bradford goes down, Case Keenum has to step in. Now that was, the 100th percentile. It ended up being a Cinderella magic carpet ride, but you felt better that, all right, yeah, this stinks. Sam Bradford's knees acting up again, but it's Case Keenum. He's been around the block. He has started 30, 40 games in his career. You feel fine about him having to start a few games, and obviously it worked out very, very well for the rest of the season. But finding someone like that, just finding a solid backup that is not a rookie and that is not inexperienced, that could step in a pinch and possibly win a game or two and steal one for the Vikings. I think that's not too much to ask for if you're a Vikings fan right now.
Right, and I think Matt Moore, is he even in the NFL anymore? Matt Moore, he was pretty good for the Chiefs, right?
He was, yeah.
Minnesota last year, but if he was available or could come back, that would be a quality backup veteran.
Yeah,
absolutely.
One thing that I've seen on this backup quarterback situation, it does not matter how many college games you've played, because Kellen Mond and Jake Browning, both 4-year starters, played a lot of college games, and they are both still very, very raw. So
I agree.
I think it's a scouting question: is what happened between the college game and the NFL?
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be an interesting tale here as the preseason wraps up in 2 weeks before the regular season. Who they want to go with as their backup quarterback. Transition to our next question. We brought this up in midweek as well, and I want some fan input on it. Do you guys think the Vikings can honestly be a pass-heavy offense? I know they have Dalvin Cook. Zimmer has some old-school football ways, but in general, they have Justin Jefferson. They have Adam Thielen. They have Kirk Cousins, who is a damn good deep threat quarterback. Logan, I'll start with you. Do you think that they can start morphing in more aerial attacks and taking more shots down the field with their passing offense?
I think absolutely. You look at some stats. I'm going to step into Phil's realm here and pull from Pro Football. Kirk Cousins had a 13.8% bad throw percentage, which was the 4th lowest in the NFL. The only one better that started a lot of games was your guy, Teddy Bridgewater, which isn't saying a lot, check down. But there's another stat. He averages 8 yards per attempt, air yards. Patrick Mahomes is only at 8.4. So this isn't a completely different quarterback. Then there's a lot of different intangibles, of course, that we're not getting to. But Kirk can make these throws. The other question is, can we protect him? That 30% pressure rate from last year, second most among quarterbacks with 400 plus attempts, has to go down if we want to be pass heavy.
Yeah, I agree. And I would like to see using like Madison and Cook on the field at the same time, throwing to Cook some quick throws to the wide receivers, get the pressure off Cousins, and then also go to Irv Smith with some quick throws and try to keep the defensive line off Kirk, to keep him calm back there. So I think they could. I think Zimmer would just probably prefer being able to take advantage of whatever the other defense is giving him. If it's more passing, more passing. If it's more running, more running.
Yeah, you bring up a good point on doing quick passes, just like easy, simple things that could maybe take some pressure off of the offensive line. So then when you can set up a big play, you can do that. They had that in 2019, even the last year, Stephon Diggs. You saw Diggs had numerous opportunities where he was able to take the ball off the top off the defense to a degree. And Kirk Cousins does throw a very good deep ball. It's just the problem is he doesn't have a lot of time to do it with the current state of the offensive line. But I can see this offense being a very balanced pass-heavy and run-heavy offense with Dalvin Cook still getting a fair amount of touches. Jason, I like your point of having him and Alex Madison on the field. I think that'd be also a big benefit. Kene Nwangu is a little banged up. He was drafted out of Iowa State. Another guy.
I want to see him in there too. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have as many playmakers as you possibly can. And like Logan said, looking at possibly a fantasy football guy, you can see him in the Reds. Irv Smith is a red zone target too. Everyone always sleeps on Irv Smith as well. So I think you can see plenty of options for this Vikings team to take a next step from a pass-heavy offense. I'm not saying they have to be number one or number two in pass attempts, but you can definitely take more shots down the field, and I think that's what I really want to see Clint Kubiak do this year.
And no more 2nd and 10 runs.
No more second and 10 runs.
Or 2nd and 1 runs that the defense knows.
Absolutely. I know. If there's a shot to do it on 2nd and 1 and everyone has that people jammed in the box, take a shot. It's okay. You can get it on 3rd down. I'm with you guys. Be a little bit more aggressive. I'm curious in your guys' thoughts on Everson Griffen making his return to the Vikings. So he comes back after a stint in Dallas and in Detroit last year. He's had a very nice, successful Vikings career, maybe borderline Ring of Honor type of guy. And with Danielle Hunter now back and healthy from his injury, you needed someone on the opposite side of Danielle to bring in some pressure. So, Logan, I'll start with you. Are you a fan of Everson Griffen coming back to the Vikings?
Yeah, and this is super simple for me. He was great in his limited time with the Lions after Week 9, had an 80 pass rushing grade. Our best pass rusher last year outside of 5 games of Unique Ngakoue was Ifadi, and he had a 68 grade. So he's a big upgrade on him. I think with DJ Wanham taking over that starter role, great run stopper, Everson can kind of focus on getting after the passer, which, like you said, he's an all-time Viking when it comes to getting to the quarterback.
Right, and I totally agree. I think it's a good move. I think Wanham can learn from Griffen as well, and then Griffen hopefully can stay fresh throughout the season for the specific pass rush situation. So I think that would be good later in the season as well.
Yeah, and I don't think it's not like Everson Griffen doesn't have to be playing, 80% of the snaps that he was in his early tenure. I think with him, with Sheldon Richardson, I know Michael Pierce, Dalvin Tomlinson are kind of your defensive tackle, nose tackle situation. DJ Wanham. I actually think, if Danielle Hunter's going to be playing the majority, the 80 to 90% of snaps, you got a really good fun rotation that you can mix in with Wanham, with Everson Griffen. Logan brings up a good point of a leadership position, possibly too, for Everson, monitoring DJ Wanham, who I believe ended up leading the team in pressures last year, almost by default because Danielle Hunter was banged up. But at the same time, I'm a fan of Everson Griffen coming back. I think it says a lot about what he thinks about Mike Zimmer's defense, what the Vikings still believe that he still has left in the tank. And even in limited snaps last year, he was still very, very effective for Detroit and Dallas. So he's not going to be someone that's playing the same amount of snaps he was, 4 or 5 years ago. But I do think he's going to be an effective player on the Vikings defensive line this season as well. What are your guys' thoughts just quickly overall on the Vikings defense? Do you think, Logan, that they've done enough to build it back up and be possibly a top 10 unit?
Yeah, and when you look at that defensive line, just last week, Stephen Weatherly was your starter at right end, and now he might be 3rd string at that position and can rotate in at either end spot, and was a starter in the NFL last year for, I believe, the Panthers. And I really love, if you've listened to Patrick Peterson's podcast, him and Harrison had pretty effusive praise about Xavier Woods, who I feel like we haven't even thought about really. He's kind of been in the background of this defense with all the position battles and injuries, and I think he's going to step in and be a star.
Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think the defense, without a doubt, is going to be the strength of the team, especially that defensive line, which I think will help the secondary with the immediate pressure and the run stop. So I'm excited about the defense, no question about it. I think it's going to be, close to top 10, maybe top 10 after they get into it.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. I think it's still a little optimistic to assume it can be a top 10 unit, just snap of the fingers, plug and play, but it's obviously going to be an improvement. It's going to be a big time improvement. You got Daniil back, which is huge. And I do think these defensive backs are a much improvement from the rookies and inexperienced players they also had to play last year. I'm curious your guys' record position. I ask every fan that comes on this show what they think the Vikings will finish with your 2021 record. I was at 11 wins just shortly after the draft, sipping the purple Kool-Aid. I've kind of tempered things down. I'm more at like 9.5, 10 wins. I'm on the bubble over there. So Logan, I'll start with you. What record prediction do you have for the Vikings this year in 2021?
Well, I am not drinking the Kool-Aid as much before. I was at 13 wins right after the draft. So I was drinking a lot of it, a little sugar high. I'm down to 11 now. I think we probably lose to some of the usual suspects. We'll probably drop game to the Packers, the Bears at Soldier. I think we have a pretty difficult schedule as far as you see the Ravens, the Steelers, the Rams, the Seahawks, all teams that are going to be in playoff contention. But I think this team is talented enough, as we talked about the defense. The offense hopefully finds a gear, and we can kind of at least vie for maybe a bye in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough. I think 9-8, 10-7, and I think the defense, if that can solidify and be strong, then it's really, I think some of those primetime games where Kirk is questionable, with his performance, I think we need to get a couple of those primetime games to, get ourselves over the hump, hopefully to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's going to look like the old black and blue NFC North division from back, right. Central division back in the day. I don't see the Packers, I don't see the Vikings or the Bears, and I just think the Lions are going to be a disaster this season. But I think most likely the team that wins 10 wins this division, and that's it. I don't see a team really going out and getting 11 or 12 wins right now. I think it's going to be teams beating up on each other. To both your points, I see splits probably most likely on the road in the NFC North. You need that. So I think in general it's going to be a division that beats up on each other. I think the Vikings make the playoffs. I don't know if they can win the division. That's going to be up for grabs, but I'm curious on where they end up finishing record-wise. But I'm at 9 wins right now. I'm at 10-7, maybe 9-8. Maybe you can get a home playoff game. That'd be sweet. Logan, I love your optimism. I'm hoping to God that they can get a bye. That'd be awesome, man. I'm all for that. If they get the bye, then the NFC runs through US Bank Stadium.
Yeah, the Packers are going to win 13 games, so it's written in history. They'll win 13 games until Rodgers leaves.
Well, awesome stuff, guys. I appreciate you guys coming on. Logan, you want to get a 60-second shout-out? Any last take you want to make here as we wrap up Vikings Vent Line?
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, big fantasy football guy. I want to shout out my league, TKD. We draft next week. Our loser of the league runs the beer mile. So 4 laps around the track, 4 beers. 2 years ago, we actually had an injury, a puking injury, if you can believe it.
Oh my God!
had to go to the doctor, get his back fixed. But shout out to those guys. I'll draft soon and fight over some Vikings players.
I love it. Jason, how about you? Anyone you want to shout out, or any last take you want to make here?
Yeah, one shout out to my girlfriend, Deb Grammatico. She's a huge football fan, Lions and Wolverines fan. So she thinks I catfished her by saying I was a football fan, not knowing I was a Vikings fan. And then also shout out to my mom. She's OG from Minnesota. That's how I became a Vikings fan. And I'm just hoping that this team can win one, before, we're not around. So yep. That's my big thing.
Yeah, our one request, let's win a Super Bowl before we all die. And I know Logan and I are a little younger. Yes. At the same time, Jason, you've seen some heartbreak as well. We just want one. Yeah. We just want one in our lifetime. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Just give me one. And then they can go 0-16 for like 2 years. I don't care.
Yeah. I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it. Logan, Jason, thank you so much for coming on Vikings Event Line. If anyone wants to get on a future episode, or if you have not subscribed to us before, hit that subscribe button. We have daily conversations on the Minnesota Vikings every day right here on our YouTube page. We're also on Apple, Spotify, ScoreNorth.com. We also have some fun bonus episodes that we are going to be announcing here very, very shortly as well. So we'll have more content in your podcast and YouTube feed. For Logan, for Jason, I'm Declan Goff, and we'll be back on Monday.